Do you have to pay property tax if you don't own your house? No. Who pays for it then? The landlord, right? So yet another thing that the landlord pays for instead of you. So property taxes are taxed based on the value of your home. So the nicer house you have, the more taxes you have to pay. The crappier of the house that you have, the less you have to pay. And they come and reevaluate it every 5 years, every 10 years, and if you've made improvements to your house, you pay more in taxes. Other things that could make you pay more in property taxes is things like schools trying to be built. Do you remember those big giant hay bale signs in Rocky Ford? Vote no on 4A? Yes, 4A failed, and so their property taxes are not increasing. But that could have increased everyone's property tax to mutually raise money for a certain cause. So this bottom line says a lot. Services that are often supported by taxes include schools, government operations, fire and police protection, and parks and road maintenance. So if you live in Swink and you send your kids to Rocky Ford, you're still paying for Swink School. If you live in Rocky Ford and you send your kids to Swink, same thing. You're still paying taxes in the district that you live in, regardless of where you send your kids. So I get a little perturbed when there's people who don't send their kids here and also don't live here, but feel the need to have a lot of say in things. You don't support us at all, because we get paid for all of you guys being in these seats, right? And then we get paid by the people who live in this school district. So if you don't send your kids here and you don't pay taxes here, just because your kids play sports here, you probably shouldn't have that big of a say. Anyways, moving on. So flip the page. This is a tax assessment form. This shows how much your house is worth and how much you're going to have to pay in taxes. So this house right here has a market value, as in if they went to sell their house tomorrow, they would sell it for $150,000. The assessed value is only $60,000. So that's what they're going to pay taxes off of, is 40% of the market value. And their tax rate is 6.2%. So property taxes really isn't that high, and you just pay it once a year. So it's really not too big of a deal, and it really does support a lot of important services like schools, police departments, fire departments, road maintenance, all of those things. Okay, so to find the decimal tax rate, which we're going to find next, how much they're actually paying in taxes, we're going to take, here's an equation. I don't know why I can't make this red. Here we go. So decimal tax rate equals the amount that needs to be raised divided by the total assessed value. Sorry, I jumped ahead a little bit. What we're calculating decimal tax rate for is if a community is trying to raise a certain amount of money, like to build a school, they will figure out what the decimal tax rate will be needed in order to raise that money. So in Rocky Ford, I think they were trying to raise like $52 million, something like that, in taxes. Yes. Some of it was coming from the state, but most of it was going to come from property taxes. And so in order to find out how much they needed to raise the taxes in the whole school district, they did this. So they needed to raise $52 million. How much property do they have in Rocky Ford? I do not know. But if you divide those two out, that's how much the tax rate would raise per person. And I think I don't want to speak out of turn, so I don't know how much it was going to raise their taxes, but I know it was going to raise it quite a bit. And they voted no. Manzanola just went through the same exact fight. They tried it twice, lost both times, and then somehow still got their new school. So I don't know what they did to raise the money.
Got a full grant.
Yeah, they're building a brand new school, Manzanola. Yeah. They're building it like right behind the old school. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's look at the example first. So the Columbia School District's total budgeted expenses last year were $6 million. Estimated income from other sources were $1.8 million, and the total assessed property value in Columbia last year was $39 million. Find the decimal tax rate needed to meet the expenses. So they need $6 million. They have 1.8 coming in from somewhere else. So they need to collect property tax of 4.2 million. So they take 4.2 million divided by 39 million, and they get a 10.7% tax rate, decimal tax rate. When you're dividing these out, you don't have to type in 42 million and 39 million. You can take off the last couple of zeros, make sure you do it correctly. But if you just are typing in a bunch of zeros, it doesn't really matter. So you could do 4,200 divided by 39,000. You get the same number. Or just do the full amount if that confuses you. Okay? All right, so let's look at A. Filbert County, their budget last year was $6.75 million. Of that, $650,000 was raised from other income, and the rest needs to be from property taxes. The total assessed value of the county's property is $80 million. What's the decimal tax rate rounded to the nearest thousandth? So, how much needs to be raised? 6.75 million. How much was raised from other income? 650,000. And their total property value was 80 million. Okay, so I'm going to take off the last 3 zeros of all of these. Just give myself a little bit smaller number to deal with. Just make sure you're taking off the equal amount on all of them. I get 7.625. Hey. Okay, pretty easy. Okay, the next little bit here is talking about this concept of mills. Mills is a tax term. So it says, in some communities, the decimal tax rate is shown as rate per thousand or per hundred, cents per dollar, or mills per dollar. So this is how it could be stated. Look at this example right here because this is helpful on page 225. So in the example, they're saying 0.062, which is 6.2%, right? Could also be stated as $62 per thousand, $6.20 per hundred, 6.2 cents per dollar, or 62 mils per dollar. So, I'm trying to think of how to state that for you guys. So for this one right here, 7.6% is the tax rate, right? So if we had $1, how much would the tax be?
For what number was it?
This one, we're looking at this example here. So if this was per dollar.
76 cents?
No, let's move this twice.
7 cents?
7 cents, okay. 7.6 cents per dollar. Okay, so if this was per $100, how much would it be?
76 cents. 70. I don't know.
60 cents.
$7.60. Okay. If it was per 1,000, you won't have to do this on every problem, but there are a few that they'll try to trip you up.
$70?
Yes, $76.25. Okay. The last one that they are going to put on multiple problems is this idea of mills. And mills is just a tax term.
76.
Okay. And it is the same as per thousand. Mills is the same as per thousand. So this would be 76 mils. And now you understand why people don't understand what they're voting for most of the time, because they make it so complicated. Taxes is so much more complicated than it needs to be, because that's just how they made it at the federal level. You just kind of have to roll with the punches. So mills is the same as what you would pay per thousand of your assessed value. Okay? So if the problem tells you that you're going to pay 80 mills in taxes. It's $80 per thousand of your evaluated taxes. Okay, and that's what we're moving on to next. So if you're still lost, don't worry, we're going to keep working with it. So let's look at tax rates per hundred or per thousand. To find the tax due on a property, when the rate is in hundreds or thousands, first multiply the number of $100 units or $1,000 units in the assessed value, then multiply by the number of units, or multiply the number of units by the tax to find the tax due. That sounds way more complicated than it is. Let's look at the example. So, calculate the property tax on the Watson's property if the tax rate is stated as $6.20 per hundred. So this is looking back at, where's the Watson's property? Oh, this is the tax form right here. Okay, so it says that there's an assessed value of 60,000. So how many groups of 100 are in 60,000? Do you know how to figure that out? Or should I show it?
60,000 divided by.
The easiest way, okay, to figure out how many groups of 100,
Divided by 100, right?
it's even easier than that. To find it, we take whatever it is that they give us, okay, and we just take off 2 zeros. So in this case, there are 600 units of 6,000. So then what if there was 75,000?
750.
Yes, just take off 2 zeros. Okay. Last example, if there was 81,000, we take off the last 2 zeros. Okay. That's how many groups of 100 there are. So if we want to know groups of 1,000, how do we do that?
Oh, 3 zeros.
Yes, take off 3 zeros. So if it's 150,000, take off 3 zeros, there's 150 different groups of 1,000. Okay, 60 and 75. Just take off 3 zeros, take off 2 zeros, whatever they are looking for, take that off, and then multiply whatever that number is times the rate, as in $6.20 per hundred. Okay, so let's look at C, and we'll do D as well. The tax rate for the town of Beal is 3.736 per $100. Find Rita's tax bill if the property assessed is $42,000. So how many zeros are we going to take off? 2. Okay, so we're going to end up with 420 times our tax rate of $3.73.6. So they're going to pay taxes of $1569.12. Not too bad, right? Not too bad. Okay, let's look at D. Find the tax on an assessed property of $120,000 if the tax rate is $4.128 per hundred. And we have a value of $120,000. How many zeros are we going to take off? 2. Okay. So we're going to take 1,200 times 4.128. $4,953.60. Okay, don't make this too complicated. Take off the zeros that they're asking for. When it says per 100 or per 1,000, just take off the appropriate amount of zeros. Okay. Oh, they give us some more examples, so let's do one more. Let's look at E. What tax must Art pay on his home, assessed for $67,500 if the tax rate is 50.08 per thousand. Ooh, this brings up a good point. If we have 67,500, how many zeros do we need to take off? 3, but we can't.
So 2.
So we're gonna take off 2. We're gonna take off 2, and then we're gonna make this into a decimal. Okay? Take off 2, make that a decimal, because there's half a 0 there. There's 0.5 of a 0 right there, so we can't take it off, but we can make it into a decimal. Okay? So we're gonna take 67.5 times 50.08. Oops. What'd you get, Haley?
3,380 and 40 cents.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, so what would be our multiplication number on F? We're not going to do it together, but if it's 13,500, 13.5. Okay. If it was 13,200, it would still be 13.2. Okay. Leave whatever number is there, but just add a decimal instead of taking it completely away. That's the easiest way to do it. Okay? And then the last one is this mils that we were talking about. So, mils is the exact same as what? 1,000. Okay? It's the exact same as per thousand, but they're just going to state it in mils. So, it says the tax rate in Milser is 52 mils per dollar. So I'm going to write down 52 mils per dollar. So what we do have to do a little bit extra work. We're going to take 52 and divide by 1,000. We get 0.052, or instead of dividing by 1,000, you can just take, add a 0. Okay. Then we just take it times the property that's assessed, so 38,400. Mills never changes. You can either divide by 1,000 or you can move it 3. This last one is not in mils. This one is cents per dollar. So let's look at H. What tax must Michelle pay on a condominium that is assessed at $32,100 if her tax rate is 3.8 cents per dollar? How do you write 3.8 cents?
3.8 cents.
If you write 3.8, that's $3.80, right? Yes. So I don't like when they state that because that's not really a number. 3.8 cents is not really a true number. The true number is 0.038. That's 3.8 cents, right? If we put the dollar sign here, $0 and 3.8 cents. So we're going to take that times the assessed value of 32,100. $1,219.80. If you get a number higher than like 5,000 or 6,000, you did it wrong. And if you get it lower than 1,000, you're probably wrong too, unless the amount is super, super tiny. But most of these should be reasonable numbers. Okay, questions on these? Okay, I'm just looking at this chart real quick. You should be able to do it all. Okay, 7 through 24, not too many. 7 through 24 all. On page 227.